Have you ever noticed that there's a lot of really good feel-good messages, like you leave that church or that place or that seminar feeling great? And it's really big in the personal development world. My husband was a part of for so many years. And the one thing that they were missing was not only biblical truths, but breakthrough. People weren't getting the breakthrough that they wanted. And I would think, yeah, like I'm pumped, I'm motivated, or, I'd go to church and I'm like, man, I feel so good. But then what? And what would happen? And I'm not knocking church. I think you should be involved in a church and place of worship. But what I'm saying is that there's a lot of good intentioned people who are not living victorious lives, that are stuck in bondage, even though they show up to those places. And I just thought that's kind of odd, because if you're going to a place consistently for breakthrough, you need breakthrough in your health or your finances or your life, or even just to wake up from your own destructive habits. But yet you leave there feeling good and it sounds good and you're hyped and you're like, oh, I just feel so at peace. But then nothing in your life changes. I always feel like, isn't that a problem? Like, don't you feel like there's something wrong there? The whole point is so we change, so we're set free, because our default person, our default persona, our default self is usually one of bad habits, destructive things. Not every part of you, of course. We all have things that don't need fixing, that are really great parts of our personalities, but for the most part, the parts of us that control our life are the destructive ones. The habits that we feel like, I can never break free from this habit. It's almost like a part of us. It's ingrained in us. So we feel like we're so used to it that it's become the normal to live in a certain type of bondage and just to accept things as they come. One of the sayings that I can't stand is, everything happens for a reason. I hate that saying. To me, that's like a big ass excuse. Sorry, should have swear. That's how much I hate it. It's like a big excuse for not taking accountability for yourself. Well, everything happens for a reason. Yeah, it's the consequences of something. It's reaping what you're sowing. So it's really a law. So it should say everything happens according to the law that was given. So if you plant tomato seeds, you're not going to get a rose bush. You always reap what you sow. So if I'm reaping something I don't want, what am I sowing, right? If I want good health, what am I eating? It's so simple, but yet we don't get it. And then we're stuck in these cycles. And one of the big things for me for many years was a people pleaser. I wanted people to like me. And I realized, if you're like, oh, I have so many friends. Well, I think it's kind of odd if you have so many friends, because you're appeasing everybody then, and I don't have so many friends. Actually, I've lost friends because I've spoken up the truth. When the Bible says that friends sharpen each other, some people don't want to be sharpened, and you might openly tell them, hey, I'm saying this out of love. The cycle that you're in is destroying your life. Who do you think you are? Why don't you're just jealous, or why don't you just worry about your own self? Well, you're saying it because you're seeing the fruits and the results of that. And some people can't handle that. And so they'll get mad at you for it. And you gotta be willing to take that risk that you're gonna not please everybody. So, and you have to be willing to tell the truth, because the truth sets people free. And don't you want to be set free? I don't want to be stuck in the same cycles my whole life because I didn't listen to anybody, or somebody was too scared to tell me, or all my friends said, you know what, it's okay. It's okay. Just, keep doing your best and keep going. And, the friend who tells me, hey, Alicia, wake up. Look what you're doing. I'll be like, what? I am? It's me? Those are the friends that you want. They're like, shake you to wake you. They're slapping you around a little bit. Because on the other side of that is freedom. It's freedom. if you know that somebody has the ability to be in really good health, but they're not, and you know that bothers them, you know it, they know it, because they talk about it, right? It bothers them. I'll just leave my hair. And so, and you see their eating habits, and you see their lifestyle is, sedentary, and they're not very active. And you're like, hey, well, I bet if you changed your habits and you worked out and you ate a little bit different, you would feel better. You would change. We can all transform our body. It's really insane that your body's a servant of the mind, and as soon as you make that decision and everything lines up, and it will obey, and it does the opposite. So that momentum can go against you too, because it does the opposite. Whatever you're feeding it, it's just responding to. And so if you have, I always tell my son, like, if you have frustration or any anger or resentment, your body's going to respond to that. It has to go somewhere. Either it's going to affect your nervous system. This is why people grow. Things happen because of what they're holding on to in their body. This is why I think it's so profound when God says to love your enemy, because it's one of the hardest things to do, to send love and to genuinely forgive somebody who's been treating you bad or has treated you bad, mistreated you, who's gossiped about you, who's hurt you. Because when you hold on to that hate or that anger, and you have a revenge, or you have like that such unforgiveness in your heart, you're actually doing it to yourself. You're eating the fruits of what you're putting out. So you're destroying your own body. It's like that saying, don't drink the poison of unforgiveness. Well, yeah. So when you actually forgive somebody who is so hard to forgive, and you're like, well, maybe they did treat you bad, maybe they were horrible, and you forgive them, it's because now your body's responding to that. It's responding to that forgiveness, and it's responding, and your life circumstances also respond to that as well, because you're putting out so much anger and hatred. It's just coming right back to you. It's not karma. It's just you're reaping what you're sowing. It's the same thing. So if you're thinking hateful thoughts towards someone, you're actually thinking it about yourself. And if you're the one going out of your way to make somebody's life more difficult, to expose their hardships or their weaknesses, then shame on you for doing that. So many people do that to make themselves feel better, to make themselves, it just like feeds their pride. Yeah, I showed them. Yeah, I'm right, and like, loser. That's a loser if you're doing that. And I know people who have done that, who do that, and people who do it to me. And I hear it from, so-and-so that, oh yeah, this person, I don't even talk to them anymore. So, get a life. Focus on your own self and what you can do better. I'm not drinking that poison. And you have a right to push back and say, no, thank you. I'm not accepting that. I don't want what you're giving or whatever. No, thank you. And a lot of times people just want to project their own insecurities on you. It becomes your fault. It's not my fault. You're responsible for your choices on what you do and don't do. So don't be a victim. I've had to tell myself that. I'm responsible for the choices that I made when I racked up a bunch of credit cards. I can't be a victim about it. It's my fault, regardless if I was in these cycles or I wasn't paying attention. It was still my doing. So you have to deal with that. So this channel and these talks are about waking up from these destructive cycles in all areas of your life, whether it's your shopping cycle, you're not focused or even aware of what you're consuming or eating, you're entertaining the wrong relationships out of guilt or out of just wanting them to like you, even though it's hurting you inside and it's making you a lesser person. All of these things are areas that we need to be set free from. We need freedom from these things. So that's what these talks are about, because I feel like there's so many different channels on YouTube that are talking about really great things. But getting down to like the basics. What are the basic things that we deal with day in and day out? And these are topics that, I don't know, I don't hear a lot of people talking about, but they're valid topics. Like, how do you deal with in-laws or being the outcast? How do you deal with You know, setting boundaries. That's a big one. How do you deal with simplifying your life when you're juggling business and family and home and kids? How do you make simple changes to be your best? What are some areas that I can do to make my life better so I can be better for my kids? Simple things. And so simplifying and not getting all wrapped up in other people's drama, unless God puts you in specifically in the path of somebody and he's like, you know what? I want you to help this person because you've gone through what they are now going through and you're the perfect person. And I've had God do that where I'm like, oh man, I know exactly what this person's going through because I went through it. And then he pairs me up with them. And it's usually at an inconvenient time. You're like, oh, I don't really have time to do it because there's blessing there. And you're releasing what's inside of you and you're not just keeping it all in. And that could really help someone. The other thing that I've learned is that people will fight you to defend a lie that they believe. So if they believe something to be true and they live out that truth in their life, even if it's false, even if it's the thing that's causing them harm, they will fight you to hold on to it. And you got to know when to just back off and back away and say, well, they clearly, just because everybody needs help, not everybody, but just because that specific person needs help doesn't mean they want it. So you have to pay attention to the words. I always pay attention to the words. Like I was talking to somebody and, if somebody says something that is hurtful or that is mocking or making fun of, well, clearly that was in their mind and their heart because otherwise they wouldn't have said it. Clearly that's what they think because what comes out of the mouth is what's in the heart, right? So if you have a friend who, oh, just kidding. I was just kidding, don't you? Like, just kidding. I didn't mean it. Well, then why'd you say it? And then why, you can't be two-faced. So it's so obvious. And so you have to recognize those patterns in those people and also be willing to close those doors. Because if you leave it open and then you're suffering, it's your fault. Like you then deserve it because you're allowing it in your life. I know that sounds really harsh, but you're allowing it. You're the one allowing it. So you have to be, again, you can't be the victim. And yes, I know it's difficult. Like, well, if it's a long-term friendship or it's a family member or it's your spouse's sibling or something, old friends, past friends, husband's friends, whatever it is. Again, you're not accountable for those people. And if you choose to spend your life pleasing or trying to appease everybody at the sacrifice of being true to who God made you to be, especially if they bring out ugliness in you. I've had people that they brought out the worst in me. I mean, I was feisty, mad, and say things that they push your buttons. This person knows how to push your buttons. And guess what? I would be the one feeling like so much anger, like to the point where, those you've had so much trauma with somebody or some scenario that it's still going on. It's like a stinky person sat in your car and then they leave and you can still smell the stench for like a week. You're like, oh, that stunk. Well, that's how it would be. So even though I wouldn't be talking to them, it'd still be bothering me for days. I'm like, why is this still bothering me? Why I'm in the shower washing my hair and I'm like, oh, they said that. And then you're coming up with scenarios that didn't even happen. Like, I bet if they would say that, then I would say this. You know what I'm talking about. You're coming up with scenarios that didn't even happen or could happen, and you're winning the conversation in those fake scenarios. But your body doesn't know if it's real or fake. That's the problem, is your subconscious mind is like soil. It takes in whatever you put in will grow. You could put in a seed of poison in soil, poison oak, and it'll grow right next to a beautiful rose bush, and it'll grow. So you are when you're thinking those thoughts that aren't serving you about that person because you haven't let go of the anger or the bitterness, you're just depositing that into your own body, and your body will respond to it through problems, diseases, and lack of sleep, and inflammation, and gut issues, because you're allowing it and you're bringing it in. And unforgiveness is so hard. Letting go of people that hurt you is so difficult to do because you're like, why should I? because it's for you. It's for yourself. Don't trade your life for that person. You're giving them power over you. So, you know, one of the biggest things that I learned was I can't keep engaging in something that is going to produce these types of results if I want healing. I'm trying to get healing in whatever area, so I can't keep going back into the fight. Like if you need healing with your finances, okay? Stop blowing money on junk. Quit going back to the same things that are causing you to delay that healing. If you need to get your body in control, you know it doesn't feel good, doesn't look good, you're miserable, you hate how, get it under control. Just do the hard work. We always want an easy way. Do the hard work. Make the decision that I'm not going to allow this anymore. That's same with toxic people. If you're having a friendship or relationship and you know it's just causing you, like I said, all those issues, and you're having a hard time forgiving and it's turning you into a miserable person, take a break and allow yourself to get perspective and heal from those things. It's just so much better. Like not caring. It's not that you don't care. You're just putting your attention to what matters. You're not throwing your wisdom to the swine. You're not throwing your pearls to the swine. You're walking the righteous path and following what God has for you. And you don't have to apologize to people for that. You don't owe them your life. You don't owe them an explanation all the time. And if they are that focused on you, well, there's something wrong with them. They're obsessed. I mean, if they're talking about you behind your back and spreading rumors and making fun of you or doing whatever with their friends, and oh, did you hear? Well, they're obsessed with you. Ugh, like weirdo. You know, clearly you're doing something. You know, like they're either jealous or whatever. But I just look at that and I'm just like, well, you know. So it's different. You want the people who are going to boost you up. They're there. They want to support you. They're not intimidated by any success, and they're not going to take, you know, anytime you're climbing or you're doing something, you're going to fail on your way there. It's a given. It's like you're learning to ride, kids learning to ride on their bike and they fall. Can you imagine if, you know, the parents said, oh yeah, their kid fell, and they spread it all over? Well, of course they did. They're doing something they've never done. You know, that's how it is in life. You build a business, the business fails the first time. Can you believe they filed bankruptcy? Yeah, I can, because it happens when you're trying something new and you're building. It's like when you're going up, it's turbulent, you know? So I've had friends, they take, you're striving, you're going up, and then they take something, one part of your failure, and then they blast that around to everybody when you're like in midair. You haven't even reached the destination yet, but they're blasting it all to all of their friends. They're doing that because clearly they hate themselves, and they're trying to justify their own inadequacies of places they'll never take off to. So you got to recognize those people and get rid of them, or shut them up. Don't even engage in them. Let them talk about you. Let them, you know, it's that saying by Mel Robbins, let them. Like, don't let it bother you, because they're just reflecting their own inadequacies, and they're at the ground. They're like the chickens clucking. You're the eagle, and they're pointing. Oh, look at her bumpy ride. Oh, they've made a mistake. Told them should have just stayed at the house. They should have just bought that little house down the street instead of trying to go after that big one. See, now they're struggling financially because they went for a bigger house instead of who do they think they are? Can't they just be happy with a little bit? You know, why do they have to go? You know, like you hear it's like nagging. You know, it's chickens clucking, hens clucking. And you have to either grow thick skin, because that's going to happen. You got to take it. You know, it's like the amount of hatred that comes from you wanting to better your life, from people around you that you think are there to support you. It's insane. It's really insane. More people that support me are other content creators and home decor and people that I met on Instagram than my own family. You know, but that's how it goes. So they're always going to look and point. But you know what? If I want a 10,000 square foot house or a 1,000 square foot apartment, why does it matter to you? You got to ask yourself, why does that person feel better if I live below my means? I'm not saying a house or apartment is below your means, but why do they care? Why do they care if you live in a small place or a large place? Why does it bother them? That I've always thought that was interesting is if you come from poverty, my family, we came from poverty, so did my husband's family. But what's interesting is his family's grown businesses. It's like they don't even apologize for it. They're like, yeah, I've got 3 houses. One's a vacation home, one's this, we're going to start a business on one of these properties. And they're all like, yeah, we're going to support each other. That's why they have all these big parties and they hang out and stuff. And my family is like, why? Why do you need that? Why do you got to live that way? Why do you need a big business? Why do you need a big house? All you care about is money. All you care about is business. I'm like, why do you even care what I care about or what I'm doing? And it's like other people become so focused on that, and then they're not focused on what they have to do. So anyways, again, I don't know where I'm going with this. These talks just kind of go all over the place. I have a hard time putting a title to them because I don't really know what the exact title is. So I appreciate when you listen all the way through, because there's always some good nuggets in there. And I listen back and I'm like, oh, that's good. These are also for me, because if you can tell, I'm going through some bumpy stuff myself. So it's a way for me to minister, but also it creates healing for me, because I'm finding peace with so many things that I know I can't do anything about. And then I'm reminding myself, what can I do something about? What can I do? I can show up every day and help those who are listening and, create content in the middle of any trials or troubles that I'm going through. So it's a win-win. It's much easier to like crawl in a hole and be like, you know what, everybody leave me alone. I can't talk about anything. But what good is that? I understand people are hurting. There is low-hanging fruit. That's what I call you guys. Like, you're low-hanging fruit. You're red. You're like, I want this. So you're grabbing onto these nuggets, and then you put them into action in your own life, and then you experience even a little bit of freedom. I had a lady she wrote me and said that she cleaned out a closet that she had packed for years. She was holding on to things that she thought she might need. Of course, never needed it, but out of fear of might needing it. And she couldn't even begin to explain the liberation she felt when that closet was empty. It was like the space had made her feel free. She walked in there, and instead of it being a big burden, it was openness, and it was freedom, and it was liberation. And not just that, it puts you back in control. Instead of that space controlling you, you're in control now. You're like, maybe I'll turn this into an art studio that I've been wanting, that I love doing, a prayer closet, whatever. It becomes a creativeness, but it puts you in a place of control instead of you being controlled by, the clutter of that, or I need to handle this at some point, or, whatever it is. So I love hearing those messages.